Hey, everybody, and welcome to the iFreak Show. Today on our panel, we have Michael Holt.
Hello, everyone.
And Evan Stone.
Hello.
Now, Evan, you've been on the show in the past, but this is your first time sitting in on the panel. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Evan Stone, and I am a iOS developer and consultant here in the North Bay area of San Francisco. So, I've been doing iOS since about 2011, and I also have another podcast called iOS Dev Break that is sporadic but fun to do also. But anyway, thank you for having me on today. Appreciate it.
This episode is sponsored by Sentry.io. Recently, I came across a great tool for tracking and monitoring problems in my apps. Then I asked them if they wanted to sponsor the show and allow me to share my experience with you. Sentry provides a terrific interface for keeping track of what's going on with my app. It also tracks releases so I can tell if what I deployed makes things better or worse. They give full stack traces and as much information as possible about the situation when the error occurred to help you track down the errors. Plus, one thing I love, you can customize the context provided by Sentry. So, if you're looking for specific information about the request, you can provide it. It automatically scrubs passwords and secure information, and you can customize the scrubbing as well. Finally, it has a user feedback system built in that you can use to get information from your users. Oh, and I also love that they support open source to the point where they actually open sourced Sentry if you want to self-host it. Use the code devchat at Sentry.io to get 2 months free on Sentry's small plan. That's code devchat at Sentry.io.
Great. Always great to have some new blood in the panel. So keep things interesting. Hi, my name is Jaim Zuber. I'm hosting the show today. And we have a guest. Please welcome Katsumi.
Hi, I'm Katsumi. I was developer in Japan, also open source library creator. As you may know, my most famous library is a Keychain Access, is a wrapper of a Keychain API. Also, if you like to play with the Swift syntax, I host a Swift-ast-explorer in the live viewer Swift-ast on the web. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, so you've been pretty busy, and drop the URLs to some of your projects in the show notes so people can find them.
Yeah,
there.
I mean.
But we brought you on the show because one aspect of what you've been working on is pretty cool. When you told me about it, I got pretty excited. So everyone was at DubDub in 2019, and not everyone, but we were paying attention. And we all saw the compositional layout for the collection views. We all excited until we figured out that it only supports iOS 13. But Katsumi was not content to sit around and wait for iOS 13. He went ahead and he created a library to backport this to iOS 12 and iOS 11 as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully, I will implement it for the iOS 10.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Possibly back to iOS 10.
Yeah.
Into the dark ages. So tell us, how did you get started with this project? What made this difficult?
I thought it is difficult, and it is not able to be done. But I started to implement this. It is more easier than I thought. Most features are done, and the left tasks is some trivial features and the performance issues. Yeah. So existing collection view API is so flexible, so I can implement it more easily than I thought. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about some of the features that you implemented into compositional layout.
Yeah, compositional layout is a new way to building the collection view layout. custom collection layout. So earlier than iOS 12, if we try to building custom collection layout, we must subclassing the collection layout and override tons of the method, and it is not easy to use. So most people, including me, can't understand what should I implement, or which method should be overridden. Yeah, so it is very difficult to build custom layout, and it's error prone. So Apple's introduces new API to building the custom collection layout. That is compositional layout. Compositional layout is a completely new way to building the custom collection layout. It like configure. Composition means small layout. We can composite small layout to the full layout. It's like configure the layout, the building the layout. So it is incredibly easier to build the custom collection layout.
Okay.
Probably see the code. Yeah.
Okay. What are some like cool features that this allows you to do easier?
So collection view layouts has a concept. Collection layouts. Composition layouts split the collection layout section, group, and item. Section has a group, and group has item, and group can be nested. So we composite item and group, and also composition layout has a multiple sections. We can build custom collection layout with small parts. It makes easier than subclassing the collection layouts class.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So if someone wants to use this, they can go to your GitHub, and we'll put a link in the show notes so people can find it. I'll drop it in there. If people want to use your new layout, how do they do it?
We use compositional layout. The layout has a section, single section or multiple section, and section has a single group, and group has multiple items. Each group or item is on size. The size can be specified absolute or ratio.
So with the compositional layouts, it sounds like you can have, you said you can have fixed sizes or proportional. Is that correct?
Yeah, either can be specified proportional or absolute, yes. Fixed, yes. So collection with flow layouts or subclassing collection with layouts, proportional layout is quite difficult because it must return UI collection layout attribute. UI collection attribute has a frame or bounds. It should be a fixed value, but the compositional layouts should be specified proportional or fixed value.
Okay, so I'm curious about the section on your page. It says copy IBP collection view compositional layout, layout interoperability.swift to your project. It tricks the compiler to make the same code base available for iOS 13 and earlier.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How does he trick the compiler?
It's a simple Objective-C mechanism using compatibility alias compiler directive. And for Swift, just use a type alias So on iOS 13, we can use NS collection layout size or NS collection layout item that these classes are introduced iOS 13. So on iOS 12, these classes not defined. So I prepared the compatibility areas or type areas, the same class name for the earlier iOS 12. Then we can use these classes on iOS 12, but on iOS 13, of course, these compatibility areas or type areas are conflict because iOS 13 existed these classes. So on iOS 13, disable these type areas or compatibility areas are disabled, and on initializer, when iOS 13, it returns the system classes. So earlier than iOS 12, the initializer returns the backported classes I implemented. On iOS 13, it returns the UIKit classes.
That sounds amazing, so that we can keep using this library even throughout as soon as iOS 13 is released as well. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So on iOS 12, we can use the libraries class, and if the applications running on the iOS 13, it's automatically switch the class, the UIKit system APIs. So just drop-in replacement, we cannot worry about which class is used. It's automatically switched running on iOS 12 or iOS 13.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I'm curious, what's your roadmap for this repository? What are you planning to implement, and when are you planning to implement it? I see you've got some to-dos still to do.
When hopefully almost all features are implemented in this month. The left features I've implemented is pinned section header footers and flexible press spaces. RTL support is probably can be done. And also currently there is no performance optimization, so it is also done in this month. Because next month or October, most developers prepare to migrate iOS 13. So I hope all features are implemented in this month, probably.
That sounds like a great plan, because then, like you were saying, developers can start using it as soon as possible, even before iOS 13 is even released, right?
Yeah, yes.
So I'm taking a look at the code here, and one thing that is unusual for new projects is I'm seeing this is all Objective-C and not Swift. What caused that decision?
Because UIKit is written in Objective-C, and so it is implemented more easier in Objective-C than Swift. And as I mentioned before, I want to make this library to drop-in replacement, so automatically switched iOS executing iOS 12 or iOS 13. Probably Swift is a very statically typed language. I think that automatically switching the class features cannot be achieved in Swift. So that is why I implemented it in Objective-C.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, if you dig into the code, say there's like one class that you're doing is the NS collection layout size, and you look at the constructor here. If it's available iOS 13, You're actually calling the NS class from string, putting the class name, and doing it that way. So you're actually returning the same type as you mentioned before. But it's kind of cool how you did that. And so it looks like in most of these classes, you're calling NS class from string.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're returning your own object, which behaves similarly.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Were there any special challenges that you faced in backporting this to iOS 12 and iOS 11?
Yeah. The most challenging things are orthogonal scroll. Orthogonal scroll is a big features in collection with compositional layouts. Orthogonal scrolling feature is it achieve the nested scroll view, like the collection view. For example, a collection view is a vertical scroll, and some sections has a nested collection view. It's scrolled horizontally. In formal iOS 12, it should be implemented much. Of course, we can use multiple collection view, and collection view in collection view or collection view in scroll view. But using compositional layouts, it can be done one setting just one property, sections dot orthogonal scrolling behavior. Orthogonal scrolling behavior has some kind of enum. Default is none, and continuous grouping boundary and paging centering. Anyway, if we set the orthogonal scrolling behavior, it's magically collection view has nested collection view automatically. It's pretty awesome. So it is very challenging things. Just setting the one property, it become collection view nested. That seems pretty difficult for me, but it already implemented it. Yeah,
I see you have an example of that on the GitHub page. The second example shows the orthogonal scroll there, and that does looks very impressive. So quite a challenge. It reminds me sort of the the Netflix layout where you have a scrolling collection view with rows that can scroll back and forth, and it sounds like that would make implementing something like that very easy. And it also looks to me like those the row that scrolls horizontally in this case, it also is composed also, so you can have one large and then two small and then one large and then two small and so forth. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I recommend to watch the Apple's WWDC session about that, about the compositional layout. That session says Apple's App Store app team completely overhaul App Store app using the compositional layouts. And they said, thanks to the compositional layout, they can reduce a huge of code because iOS App Store app has a lot of the nested collection view are used.
Yeah, so you could see where that would be a real advantage, especially if you're using these a lot in your design, and Apple does that. And so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yes.
And then to have that impact the size of your code base. Also, if you have to do a lot of work to get to implement something like this, you were mentioning before, or even nesting collection views or taking some kind of drastic measure like that, and then being able to jump to something that simplifies it to this level. That's a very compelling argument. And then doing what you've done to be able to implement that and support that in iOS 12 and 11 and sounds like possibly 10 also. Boy, that's a really great thing that you've done for the community.
Yeah, thank you.
So has Apple come and offered you a job yet? If you're doing their work for them?
They might after this podcast.
Yeah, I hope so.
So what caused you to say, hey, I'm going to create an open source library to do this? Is this a project you're working on or for fun, or what caused you to create this?
Yeah, for fun. And I love the new compositional API. So I use it immediately and without waiting the spreading iOS 13. That's why I try to implement, working on this project.
Okay, and I've noted, I'm going through the list of your other repositories that you've done. You've actually created this keychain access, which I've used. You've got like a spreadsheet view. Like, you've been pretty busy. So
yeah, I don't have time to maintain the existing library. So I'm sorry for the users. Yeah, but I try to make a time to maintain the existing library. So hopefully.
So how do you find time to do the work that you have been doing?
I have no idea. I'm busy, but working on weekend. Yeah.
Okay. So nights and weekends.
Yes.
Well, very cool.
That's the old standby, isn't it? Nights and weekends. Get those side projects done.
Yes.
Excellent.
So what else do we miss? What else should we know?
Oh, no, that's all. But can we advertise my products?
Yeah. Tell us what you're working on, for sure.
I host Swift-ast-explorer. This is a web application. This web application visualizes a Swift abstract syntax tree. This AST is provided by Swift Syntax. I use Swift Syntax on server-side Linux. They can post the Swift code snippet. Then server-side Swift convert AST to HTML. Then we can see how to parse Swift code into abstract syntax tree on website, side by side.
Is this live? Is this a web app we can see right now?
Yes. Can you see the link? Yes.
There's the link in the show notes. Oh, there we go.
It is helpful for the Swift compiler developer or Swift developer with Swift syntax, like developing Swift formatter or developing something like linter and so on.
Okay. So one application like you just suggested is if I'm doing a code review of someone saying, hey, I don't like this code standard, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll write a linter for it, or don't bother me about this. And I'm like, oh crap, how am I going to do that? This can help you dig into things, inherited type list, inherited type, and kind of help you write your lint. So this is a really cool app.
Yes. Before I tried to implement Swift formatter using the Swift syntax. To do that, I should know how the Swift abstract syntax tree, how Swift AST is, struct block, Swift AST, how Swift AST represent the struct class or function blocks. We need to know it because making Swift formatter, I need to know the Swift code, how represent the Swift code structures. So I will, so that's why I make it.
No, this is really cool. You can go through, like in your example project, you've got a blackjack card and you're a Noom suit character, and you can actually dig into the member declaration list item. It's an enum suit. You type inheritance clause. A lot of cool things. So this can really help you figure out what's happening under the hood, because I don't know a lot of the times about the at this level, the syntax tree type stuff. So this is really cool stuff if anyone's curious on what this looks like under the hood.
Yeah, just to back up a little bit. So AST is the abstract syntax tree, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, it would be, I wanted to make sure that I had the right term in my head when we were talking about it. And now it makes sense seeing what has been created here. It's really interesting to go drill down into the code in the left pane and see, the code is in the left, but then drill down on the right-hand side and see how it's all parsed into its various components. That's fascinating.
Yeah. The side-by-side view is very helpful for the what corresponds the AST structure to the Swift world code.
So this is very cool. So anything else we should cover on this before we get to the picks?
Yeah. No, that's it. That's it for me. Yeah.
Cool. Let's get to the picks. And we've got a link to the show notes for the Swift-ast-explorer.
Thanks.
Some good stuff. Evan, do you have a pick for us?
Yes, actually, this is a pick that I've been reserving for quite some time, and I've been wanting to share with a lot of folks know about it who have been into Apple and Mac history, but it's a book that I dug out recently again after having it been on the shelf for a long time and I hadn't read it. But Revolution in the Valley, and it's the Andy Hertzfeld book, and so it's an awesome little, shouldn't say little. Awesome collection of anecdotes and stories about the creation of the original Macintosh, and there's some great stories in there, and so I just thought I'd share that as a pick for this week.
Great, Mike. What do you have for us?
So I've got two picks because I couldn't choose one. They're both so awesome.
There's no limit to picks.
Yeah, but there's two articles that I found recently that I've just been really excited to read and help me come to some decisions. So the first one is Combine versus RX Swift. Should you switch to Combine? And because ever since they announced it, and since I've actually been a reactive Swift programmer for a couple of years now, and I've definitely converted to reactive programming. I love it, and I find excuses to use it whenever I can. But then Apple comes out with their own version called Combine, and so now I'm torn. Should I keep using reactive Swift, or should I switch over to to Apple's sanctioned library now? And this article that I found by quickbirdstudios.com does a very good job of kind of explaining. It also takes into account RX Swift as well. So RX Swift, reactive Swift, Combine, and some of the pros and cons to each of those. And I've really enjoyed it. So that's my first pick. And then the second one is another article about using Swift for scripting, which I hadn't even thought about before, because I've written a number of bash scripts in my time for doing things simple and complex, and things like build scripts, as well as just simple mathematic things and various things. And now that Swift has been released and can be used for scripting, I might consider going back and looking at all my scripts that I've written and converting them to Swift, depending on the situation, because there are some things that are much easier in Swift, and there are also some other things that are much more difficult in Swift. And so I think it's still good to weigh the options and look at the situation for the script. But it's a really good article, and this one's that gives some really good examples. Gives some really good examples and some example code, some scripts written in Swift that you can try out and start scripting in Swift. So those are my picks.
Very cool. Katsumi, what are your picks?
No, I have no picks.
No picks. Everything is terrible. You heard it from me. That's cool. So if you want to find out what you're doing on, how can they find you? You have a website, Twitter. How can people get a hold of you?
Website, Twitter?
Twitter? Do you have a Twitter account?
Yeah, I have a Twitter account. K_Katsumi. I will paste the chat. This is my Twitter.
Okay. Also a website?
Yes.
KishikawaKatsumi.com.
Yes. It's my website.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that the abstract syntax tree interpreter viewer would be like the second thing we talk about. That'd be the kind of thing thrown in. That was pretty cool. But thanks a lot for coming on the show. I think we learned a lot about what you've been working on, and yeah, you've been busy. So this has been a lot of cool stuff. So thanks for coming on the show. And
yeah, thank you.
For everyone else, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CacheFly.com.